Hello, unlimited friends. We're back again with the book Ask and It Is Given, and today we are studying chapter 16, and it is called You Are Co-Creating Within a Magnificently Diverse Universe. Let's get started. I love the words. If you have the ability to imagine or even to think about it, the universe has the ability to yield it. That's the principle on which all visualization works. That is the principle on which the daydreaming process works that Abraham is talking about. Because if you can imagine it, then it is possible for the universe to deliver it. Now, the next thing that Abraham talks about is the well-stocked kitchen, and we'll go into that in detail. What does it mean to have a well-stocked kitchen? Imagine that you had in your kitchen every possible ingredient that could be used for any and all recipes, regardless of where that recipe is from. You had all the ingredients, but you're not going to use all the ingredients all the time. You only use a definite set of ingredients for what you want to create. And so what Abraham is talking about in this chapter has to do with how we interact with other people in the world. There would be no fights, there would be no wars if we could just allow other people and be okay with whatever it is that they believe and the way they live their lives. And that's where this analogy of the well-stocked kitchen comes into play. Because maybe I'm working on a recipe and my daughter's working on something else in the same kitchen. She could be using other things from that kitchen. And the universe is so abundant that there's more for both of us. And we can use different ingredients in our recipes. It doesn't matter. And it should not matter. However, sometimes inadvertently, because we don't know any better, we start having beliefs about the appropriateness of things. I'll give you an example. And this is from my own life. When I immigrated from Pakistan to Canada, I observed more keenly, although I was aware of it when I lived in Pakistan, but when I came here, I became aware more keenly of the fact that a lot of people in my new environment thought that people in my ethnic background were in some way, shape, or form that the women were not allowed the freedoms and that they must be really unhappy because they were not allowed those freedoms. And I knew from coming from there and observing firsthand that that was not the case. Sure, there are unhappy women in Pakistan just as much as there are unhappy women right here in Canada. They have all the so-called freedoms and access to facilities, yet they are unhappy. So yes, of course, there are women who are unhappy in Pakistan, but I'll tell you something. Those women who cover themselves up in shrouds and they wear, we call them shuttlecocks. You know, it's like a shuttlecock, covers you all around, like an upside down shuttlecock. Shuttlecock burqas, shrouded in those black garments. I know for a fact that a lot of them, in fact, most of them, are extremely happy and within the confines of that shuttlecock have a lot of freedom. It's a lifestyle and they're okay with it. They are not unhappy. So it's perception, isn't it? We choose to believe one way, whereas there are people who believe another way. And as long as you're happy, who cares? All right, moving along. The next thing that Abraham is talking about in this chapter is something that I remember when I read it many years ago the first time, something clicked into place for me. And when that happened, I realized something that I intuitively knew to be true. And I'm going to share with you what that is because I wrote about it. You'll find the article on my website, and you'll also find it in the book Thrive, because that's where I first wrote about it. It's the yin yang. You know, the yin yang symbol. It used to be one of my favorite symbols. As a teenager, I was extremely attracted to it, and I'm just going to show it to you here because this is what Abraham is talking about. If this was a particle, so Abraham is basically saying in every particle, hang on, where is it? And within every particle of this universe is that which is wanted and the lack of it. So let's take this apart. If this yin yang was a particle, then in every particle there are two sides of the equation, the having of it and the not having of it. And in the not having of it, there is a grain of having, and in the having of all wonderful things is a grain of not having, of lack. Whichever one you focus on becomes the whole. So if you were looking at things from a lackful perspective, but you chose to focus on the one thing in your life that was working, then this would become the whole. And if everything in your life was fantastic, but you started to focus on something that irritated you and you didn't quite like, then this little spot would become the whole. And I think I have on the next page a diagram that shows it. So every negative thought starts clouding the white portion until there is no more white and it's all gone dark. So you have the choice. If you focus on this, you will create this. In every grain, every particle of the universe, there is that which is wanted and that which is not. So this is the book Thrive. And the book Thrive contains 42 diagrams that explain how law of attraction works. So you'll find the link to the book in the description below. And if you're interested, I would love for you to grab a copy. Okay, let's move along. Without the ability to know what you do not want, you could not know what you do want. So Abraham is simply explaining how preferences are born. I have to taste something that I don't like, that did not sit well with my taste buds, in order for me to be able to know what I do like. And someone else might taste that same thing and they might love it. Me, I love that we have 4 seasons where I live. There's clearly 4 seasons, and I love observing the change between one season and another. I love all the seasons, but I know that there are my fellow Canadians who want to escape one of the seasons completely. They don't want to be here. So we are different. But you have to experience. If they had not experienced the cold, they would not know that they prefer the heat. So I came from an environment that was all heat. Winter was 6 degrees. And it wasn't until I came here to Canada and started living here that I experienced 4 seasons. And I fell in love with it. So you can have different perspectives. Everybody is giving birth to their choices and is deciding in every moment which choices they prefer. That's what this is all about. That is what law of attraction is all about, because it's when we know what we don't want, that is when we know what we do want. And when we know what we do want, that's how law of attraction is starts working. Like we start working it, because when we know what we do want, then we pull it more strongly. Hi guys. Hi Lucianne. All right. And Ursula. Okay. So let's keep going. Even the cells of your well tended to body are having their own experience and are emanating their own preferences. And this is what Abraham says again and again. Even the one-celled amoeba has preferences. Everyone and every cell of our body is also communicating directly with source. It has its own line with source. And so the interesting thing for us to know is that when we are in pain, all that means is that the cells of our body are asking for wellness. They have their own communication, and that's how they are communicating with source. Every particle of the universe has its own communication with source. How wonderful is that? Okay, so Abraham is saying unwanted must be allowed for wanted to be received. If you never felt any contrast at all in your life, you would never know what you preferred, and if you did not have preferences or desires, you would not call energy forth, and if you did not call energy forth, then there would be nothing interesting going on. One day would be exactly the same, flat, nothing interesting going on. And then what would be the point of being alive, right? Sometimes, Abraham says, sometimes people express the desire of everybody being the same. I want my spouse to be exactly the same things, or at least like most of the same things that I like. Political parties want to convince each other of their opinions. And in all of that, if everyone was the same, if everyone wanted exactly the same things and thought the same way, we wouldn't have fun interacting with each other. It wouldn't be this much fun. It's when we meet people and, one idea leads to another idea, leads to another idea. Have you been in those conversations where you just want that conversation to go on forever because you're playing on each other's words and it's so much fun? That comes from diversity. Diversity is so important, and that is what Abraham is saying. In order for us to grow and become more, in order for new thoughts to be born, in order for new preferences to be born, there has to be both wanted and unwanted. However, unwanted doesn't need to be hurtful. It doesn't need to be a struggle, because, like I say, giving birth to preferences can be as simple as going to a pizza shop and saying, I want these things or these toppings on my pizza. It doesn't have to be starvation versus having a pizza, right? So we're creating anyway, but we don't have to experience hardships. We don't have to experience struggle in order to give birth to preferences. And Abraham has said that the whole reason they come forward to talk to us about these things is because struggle is not necessary. Struggle is, we don't want struggle, and neither does Abraham. Being unhappy is not necessary in order to give birth to desire. So unwanted and wanted doesn't have to be hurtful, okay? You did not come to fix a broken world, because the world is not broken. The world is not broken. There's nothing here for us to fix. There is a system. It's like playing any game. We knew the rules of the game when we came here. If we just played the game of this life, going through this life with knowing how the emotional scale works, knowing how desires create, and knowing how source answers, then we can have a extremely good life without ever having to struggle, right? Okay, let's keep going. Every physical being on your planet is your partner in co-creation. And isn't that interesting? Because even the person in at the drive-through window is your co-creator. Even the person that you pass in your car and is in the car next to yours is a co-creator. Everyone in this world is a co-creator, and all we have to do is to accept and appreciate the diversity of beliefs and desires, because if we do that, then we can give birth to happy contrast instead of unhappy contrast. No bad things have to happen. Contrast can be good and more good and more good. It does not have to be bad at all. Okay, so like Abraham also, like even when you consider diseases that are considered chronic, like cancer, etc., that doesn't have to happen. It's unnecessary, because the best way to live life, as Abraham says, and I love these words, are happy, healthy, happy, healthy, happy, healthy, dead. Right? And isn't that what everyone wants? Nobody wants to suffer and then make their transition. Okay. Do not put those unwanted ingredients in your pie. I guess we've already talked about the well-stocked kitchen, and if there were 2 or 3 people in the kitchen, they could use different ingredients, and some of the ingredients they use could be the same. It doesn't matter. Everyone can create a fabulous and enjoyable dish to have. There's enough room for all diverse thoughts and experiences. There is room enough in this expansive universe for all manner of thought and experience. Nothing is off limits, and Abraham keeps saying that. The variety, when you came into this life experience, you and I both, the variety did not frighten you, but instead it inspired you, for you knew that you were the creator of your own experiences, and it was meant to be fun, and it was going to be fun to try out new things and give birth to preferences, to say that I like this and I like this and I like this. So then Abraham goes into a deeper discussion. Here is the process by which your universe expands. It's the variety that gives birth to the desire, the newly born preference. And if you stay aligned with it, and now it gently and easily appears in your experience, now you have created your desire and manifested it. That's the important thing. And this has to do with attachment. You see, gently give birth to your good feeling thoughts regarding your desire, and don't look for it. When we start looking for it, things go wrong, because when you look for something, the universe sees that as a complaint. Okay, so, and in the moment that this new desire exists, it too begins to vibrationally draw unto itself, and it too expands. Way back when, we looked at how when we think a thought, that thought never goes away, and in fact that thought starts vibrating on its own and has its own emotional scale. And that's what Abraham is referring to just now. So this is how the thought becomes the thinker, because now the thought that you created is on an emotional scale, and because you created it from a good place, it also has pulling power and is now pulling energy towards it. This is how the universe expands. And this is why you are on the leading edge of expansion, because it is us humans and other plants, animals that are giving birth to desires, and the fact that those desires become the thought becomes the thinker is the reason that the universe expands. It is never ending, always flowing pure positive energy expansion. Why? Because even if humans were wiped off the face of the earth, there would still be plants, animals, and other life forms, and even rocks and sand, grains of sand. All of them also are communicating with Source. The only difference is with those things that we call non-living things are also communicating with Source, but their desires are not as emphatic. They're not going into pizza stores and ordering pizzas. Their desires are not as emphatic as human desires. And that's why human thought is the leading edge of creation, because every minute we are giving birth to new and more desires. In every second of every minute, we are giving birth to more desires. All right. You will never get there, so enjoy your journey. And by that, Abraham means we will never, as long as we are physically focused, we are never going to stop giving birth to desires. It's never ending. It's never ending. I mean, is there a day that goes by when you just sit there and say, somebody says, would you like lunch? And you say, no, I'm okay. Don't want anything to drink or eat, or don't want to go poop. No, right? Even those little desires are desires. Nobody is without desire. It's even the desire to be spiritual is a desire. There is no one who is without desire in this world. Even if they don 2 pieces of cloth and go live in the jungle, they are not without desire, because that is their desire. And everyone, we cannot be without desires, because we are equipped with a tummy, and everyone comes equipped with a tummy, and that tummy gets hungry. And when that tummy gets hungry, the desire is to eat. So we can never really be without desire. When we get to a stage where some of us do, that it seems as if there is no desire, but even in that there is a desire. When you see people or you hear of people who are in confined confined to bed, and it seems as if they are brain dead, let's say, or in a coma, sometimes their desire is to make their transition. Even they have a desire. They either have a desire to recover and start playing again in the world, or it is their desire to leave. And some of them don't leave and hang out, neither here nor there, because there's a desire to be with some loved one that is also pulling them here, or something that they wanted to do that is also pulling them here. So they're indecisive. They want this, they want to transition, but they also want to stay. Okay, if your goal is finally, once and for all, achieve all that you desire, you will find yourself unable to ever fulfill that goal, for the expanding nature of the universe defies that idea. And I remember I had a really good laugh listening to an Abraham video where Abraham said, you can't eat all the food that you were ever going to eat today and therefore be done with the desire to eat. You can't breathe all the air that you were going to breathe throughout your life and just be done and then not have the desire to breathe, right? There is no end to our wanting things. Feel the balance and perfection of your environment. Continuing new ideas for the improvement of your experience emanate from you constantly and are answered constantly. That is the process of creation that keeps the universe going. Consider the perfection of this universal environment. Every point of consciousness is improving its state of being in just the same way as you, where every desire is understood and answered and every perspective is honored and responded to. Think about that. From the point of view of Source, even those people that society as a whole thinks are inappropriate, the examples that come to mind are people like Hitler, Saddam, where a lot of hatred is focused upon these individuals in history. But Source never looked at them that way. Source loved even them. Source never, ever, ever looks at anyone with hatred or anger or any negative emotion. And so it is only human beings who look at things that way. And so even those people that we think are inappropriate, even they have desires. And the universe is responding to their desires as well. Every point of consciousness, even the consciousness of a cell in your body, can request an improved state of being and get it. And I tell you, anyone who acts from a low place on the emotional scale and hurts another person, that person is asking for well-being. They, in fact, are so hurt that they would do anything to feel better. And sometimes our thoughts become so convoluted that we think that our feeling better will come through hurting someone else, right? Since every request is granted, there is no competition. How wonderful is that? Everyone can win. It's not either me or you. It's about fulfillment. It's about happiness. So in this physical environment, there might be a race, and you might say that only one person can win the race. That's a human criteria of success. But you don't know, that person who came second, to them that might be a huge achievement. They might be jumping up and down with happiness at having achieved that, right? It's not about the prize. It's the only prize is joy. Each point of view matters, every request is granted, and this amazing universe unerringly expands. There is no end to the universal resources that fulfill these requests. People can want the same thing, and if they believe that they could all have what they wanted, then it would be possible, because it's only our belief that says only one person can have the prize that keeps all of us from getting it, right? This is why everyone does not win the lottery, because there are people who buy the lottery ticket and think that they will not win. So what happens? They don't win. And then there are those people who buy the lottery ticket just for the fun of it, just for the heck of it, and they win, right? All desires are answered, all requests are granted, and no one is left unanswered, unloved, or unfulfilled. When you stay aligned with your energy stream, you always win, and somebody else does not have to lose for you to win. There is always enough. There's always another time, and the next time might be more amazing than you ever thought it would be. If someone is not receiving what they are asking for, it is not because there's a shortage of resources. It can only be that the person holding the desire is out of alignment with their own request. There is no shortage, there is no lack, there is no competition for resources. There's only allowing or disallowing of that which you are asking for. And then Abraham goes back to the 3 steps of creation. Step 1, you ask. Step 2, source answers. And step 3, you have to allow. And how do you allow? That's what the process of alignment is all about. Okay, folks, awesome. That's the end of chapter 16. I'm just going to go back to 1 or 2 points that Abraham made here. There is no wastage, because nothing ever goes waste. That thing that you think is wasted is useful in other ways. You might throw something away. You know, why do they say one person's junk is another one's treasure? Nothing ever goes to waste. This whole world, the whole universe, and certainly planet Earth is a big recycling center. Nothing ever goes away. Everything is there, and it just changes form. It becomes useful in some other way. It never, ever, ever, energy never goes away. It just changes form. And all our requests can be answered. And once you start accepting this one thing, that all requests can be answered, that's when you have this peace in the heart. when you realize that you're not competing with anyone else except yourself, our only competition is with ourselves. It's because we think that we can't have something, right? So there is no competition. When you realize that, and when you realize that all your desires are justified and you are worthy of all of them, that's when you have that peace in the heart. That is what trust and faith are all about. Okay, folks, that's it for me for today, and I'm looking forward to joining you again tomorrow night. Have a fabulous rest of the evening, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.